In this week's newest episode of The Simpsons, titled The Yellow Lotus, Evergreen Terrace's most famous residents give us their take on the lifestyles of the rich and famous as the Simpson family attend a luxury vacation at a resort. Unfortunately for them, however, they're also rooming next to Bart's mortal enemy, Sideshow Bob. Now, I'm always excited for a Sideshow Bob episode, so does this one live up to the expectations set by the previous escapades of Springfield's favorite red-haired attempted murderer? Let's find out. As you may have guessed from the title, this episode is a parody of the hit HBO show The White Lotus, which, if you haven't seen it, is a great dramedy series about how much it sucks to be rich. The episode starts at breakneck speed with Homer and Marge doing grown-up things by the secluded Cove. Before things escalate and they create a fourth Simpson child, they discover what appears to be a dead body floating in the water, which, understandably, kills the mood. For their traditional couch gag, the opening to this episode shows the Simpsons recreating the White Lotus's own opening sequence. We then get a flashback telling us how we got here by being introduced to Springfield's
neediest minority, the wealthy elite.
The Simpsons are about to leave their usual backdrop of Springfield to go on a trip to a luxury resort.
It just seems too good a place for us to have a reservation.
Now, if you're wondering how Homer could have afforded a trip like this on a nuclear power plant safety inspector's budget, the show explains this with another flashback. That's right, it's a flashback within a flashback. It's Flashbackception. 10 years earlier, a pregnant Marge and hairier Homer are attending a seminar selling timeshares. Marge isn't convinced on buying these timeshares.
Now, I'm legally forbidden to say that this is a good investment, but this is a very good investment.
If you didn't know what a timeshare was, this episode's newest character, Nick Callaghan, is here to sell one to you.
That is much more valuable than property. Points. It's a steal for me.
If that didn't sound like a great pitch, it's because it's not. Timeshares are pretty famously bad things to invest in, and mostly serve to take up your money without giving you too much in return. It's basically buying a vacation home that you can only use for about 1 week a year. You'd have to be pretty dumb to invest in one, and unfortunately, Homer isn't exactly known for his intelligence. Marge tries to push back against this, but she's outmaneuvered when Nick sweetens the deal by offering Homer a free boombox with the timeshare. You know, a boombox. That thing that we still all use. Still, it could have gone worse. Homer could have been like Kirk Van Houten and eaten a free strawberry to try and get out of the contract using a deadly allergic reaction. Luckily for him, he's not divorced yet, and Luann is waiting by his side to help him out.
Another free breakfast, and all I had to do was risk death.
Back to the present, or the slightly more present past, I guess. We see the Simpsons disembark from their ship and see what has to be the swankiest resort they've ever seen.
Everything here is for guests only, including the view.
Yeah, so turns out the company that sold Homer and Marge the timeshare no longer exists, and they're taking back everything they thought they were going to get. Thankfully, though, the company that bought up the company that sold them the timeshare has promised to honor the deal, but only so far as the points that the Simpsons family has accrued last. How long will their points last, you ask? Well, that's for the company to know, and you to find out.
Checkout time! Back away from the minibar.
20 minutes. Their points last them 20 minutes. They won't even let Homer keep the shampoo from the bathroom because they've bolted it to the wall. Still, that's nothing a little elbow grease and 239 pounds of at least some muscle can't fix. I mean, there's gotta be some muscle in there, right? Anyway, the hotel gives their room to the Hibberts, who are looking to enjoy a nice and relaxing vacation, hopped up on as much prescription medication as a designer bag can hold. Tasha arrives on the island, who sounds very much like a popular character from the original show, to check into her 3 rooms. One for her husband, and one for her luggage. Normally, this would be the end for the Simpson family, but lucky for them, they have a criminal mastermind in the body of a 4th grade underachiever by the name of Bart, who's capable of forging hotel keys. Man, remind me to never cross Bart Simpson. The Simpsons sneak into the room occupied by Tasha's luggage, and they overhear her next door talking. When they take a look, it seems Tasha has a very familiar, large-footed husband. That's right, it's none other than Bart's nemesis and Springfield's menace, Sideshow Bob. This understandably worries Marge, who prefers her children not to be murdered, and wants to notify the authorities and his new wife of who they're dealing with. But, of course, it's good to hear both sides to every argument. On the one hand, Sideshow Bob is an attempted murderer, but on the other hand,
Bob's only an attempted murderer. Attempted!
Now, if that argument didn't convince you, Bob makes a better one himself by pointing out that while he doesn't want his wife to know of his murderous past, the Simpsons don't want the resort to know that they're staying without paying for their room, so it's best if everyone just keeps quiet.
Well, I guess we're trusting the psychopath.
Sociopath.
And it's not like there's nothing for them to enjoy either. This is a rich people resort with its own dedicated section for rich kids. They have everything here, from workers who color in your coloring book for you, to gourmet food, to literal silver spoons for Maggie to use instead of her pacifier.
Our kids are getting spoiled in a way we could never afford.
And while the kids get pampered, Homer and Marge check out the many amenities rich people have at one of these resorts. From back massages to foot massages to hair massages, this place has it all. And the only price Homer and Marge have to pay is occasionally hiding in a mud bath whenever Lindsay Nagel rears her hair-sprayed head. Seems like a pretty good deal if you ask me. But of course, there's still the fact that Bob's wife is still here and still married to a man with a history of killing his wives. When Marge and Homer see her get a less than favorable fortune at her tarot reading, Marge decides to come clean and tell her that she's married to a sociopath. This goes about as well as you'd think it would in an episode of The Simpsons, because Sideshow Bob happens to be just around the corner from them and overhears them breaking their part of the deal. Not one to be outdone, Bob snitches on them and gets hotel security to chase them through a pool, where the sight of Homer's billowing blubber causes what can only be called a mass public health hazard, and into a hedge maze, where Homer teaches Marge a familiar trick for getting away from people through hedges.
This resort is filled with psychos, murderers, and mild neurotics.
Man, I don't know about you, but this seems like the exact opposite of a relaxing vacation to me. Imagine getting away to someplace nice and picturesque, and then having to run for your life from a killer and attack dogs. After they emerge back to the hotel, they run into a familiar face. It's Nick Callaghan, the very same man who sold them their timeshare in the first place. Marge tries to tell him how he gave them a bad deal, but he gives her his best Thanos impression and tells her he has absolutely no idea who they are.
Lady, do you know how many pregnant women I have defrauded?
She gives him a piece of her mind, which does absolutely nothing to change his opinion or moral compass. Some people are just born villains, I guess.
Hey, I need that for evil.
The rest of the hotel catches up to Homer and Marge, who are now thoroughly outed as the upper-lower middle-class people that they are. But while they might not have money, they have heart.
So you may be wealthier, but we're rich in what counts.
Points?
The ability to go on vacation and have fun without plotting to kill our loved ones.
And so, with the sun setting on their luxury vacation, Homer and Marge decide to go for a swim in the very same cove we started the episode in. But if you're wondering where the dead body is, don't worry, we'll get to that. While they're enjoying their final swim, Bob is spending the sunset with his wife. Things are about to take a dark turn when suddenly, they don't. It looks like Bob has actually turned a new leaf and is ready to be a good husband. Unfortunately for him, he chose a manic-depressive wife prone to bouts of murderous intent followed by immediate regret, which we've all been there, right? She pushes Bob off the cliff, who falls all of 20 feet before landing on a walking path next to Sideshow Mel. The two assistants to Krusty the Clown decide to catch up and enjoy a nice little walk down the cliff together, safe and sound. But wait, so if Sideshow Bob's wife isn't the corpse, or Sideshow Bob, then how did the dead body wind up in the cove? Well, Dr. Hibbert and Bernice were taking a beautiful hot air balloon ride when he emptied the contents of her controlled substance bag off the side and into the ocean. The pills happened to land next to timeshare salesman Nick Callaghan, who was going snorkeling close to a sea otter. The normally mild-mannered, friendly, hand-holding sea otter then ate every drug known to man, and was thrown into a murderous rage at the sight of a swindler who had the nerve to be alive in its presence, killing him immediately. Man, karma really can be beautiful sometimes, can't it? With the mystery solved and wrapped up in a neat little bow, we are treated to a continuation of the White Lotus parody song that plays over the intro as the credits roll. Now, I'll be honest, I liked this episode overall, but it felt like there was a lot of material that could have been used better. I've always liked Sideshow Bob episodes, which is why it felt kind of weird for him to really not be that important here. He doesn't actually do that much, and isn't even remotely responsible for the one death that occurs in this episode, which for Sideshow Bob is kind of disappointing. Plus, there's the fact that this is also supposed to be a parody of White Lotus, but aside from the setting, it didn't really feel like that much of a parody. While the jokes were pretty decent, I'll give them that, it really felt like it could have done a lot more with what it had. I enjoyed how they experimented with the episode, and I would like to see more of this from The Simpsons. It's always nice to watch episodes that aren't set in Springfield as well. It shows there's another world outside of the town. When I think about the episode as a whole, I did enjoy it, so for that, I'd give it a 6 out of 10.